we're nearly there. I realised that, well, there's only 2 more items standing between you and some refreshments at the end of the day. As well as celebrating all of the members coming together to celebrate all of the hard work as we've done throughout the day, and it's been really inspirational to watch. I also asked a few people from outside the consortium to give us their view on what was happening, and so we're going to play a short video now.
When we first released that genome sequence, first sequence in January 2020, seems like a long time ago. At that point, I don't think I didn't think this outbreak would go that far, quite frankly. I thought this was going to be like SARS-1. I thought we probably controlled it pretty quickly within a few weeks, you know, and I think maybe a local spread within Wuhan, maybe a few other cities in China, and then it would be gone. But it was way more infectious than we ever thought before, then. And so no, the whole thing's been a staggering thing to watch in real time. But I think one of the things, and there's been good parts of that and bad parts of that. And I do think that one of the great things has been, there are 2 great things. I think one is the vaccine development so quickly, based on the genome sequence in many respects, right? But also the genomics has been an absolute triumph, okay? And amazing, 4 million genomes. It's hard to comprehend now. You've got 4 million genomes of one thing. You can download and analyze. That's been an absolute a marvel to watch. And the UK, COG-UK, have really played a key role in that, and I mean, it's been a game changer what they've done. And they set the standard. They've really made it, you know, this is what we need to now to achieve.
I don't think there's any way that I would have imagined that we would have this many genome sequences available so quickly. It's something we've never managed to do before, and I think it's absolutely allowed us to get where we are in the pandemic today. These 4 million sequences have absolutely revolutionized the way we've been able to handle this pandemic. So at the very beginning, we really didn't know how much this sharing was going to happen. It was fantastic that those first few genomes were made publicly available, but of course we had no idea how much resources countries were going to invest in sequencing and how fast and how freely that data was going to come. But thanks to programs like COG-UK, this data started to come in at an unprecedented level. And this has allowed us to track every moment of the pandemic, from the first spread outside of Asia to today, where we're using it to track the appearance and spread of new variants.
First started sequencing genomes in Denmark, it was unfathomable that there was so many genomes at this point of time now. Denmark started around the 11th of March when our Prime Minister closed out in Denmark. Then my group decided to try to help out the government and other agencies that were starting to do it in Denmark.
Putting together a consortium on the scale of COG-UK is a huge achievement, even in peacetime. But to have brought together people in an emergency, if you like, and to have coordinated the response, as has been done, is really phenomenal. As a leader of a much smaller consortium called G2P to look at the virology, I can well understand how difficult it is to bring people together in that way. And I think it's a real credit to both the leadership and all the individual components of the consortium that they've managed to come together, to work together and produce this huge amount of data for the world.
What's impressed me, there's a number of things I'm really impressed about COG-UK. So I think for many years, myself and some of my colleagues have glibly used the phrase genomics in real time. So during outbreaks, we get genomes and we use those to track the spread of pathogens like Zika and Ebola, and it's never been really in real time. It's always been a few weeks, maybe months behind. Okay, we've kind of used that phrase in a real time in a kind of, you know, loose way. With COG-UK, it really is real time. I mean, really is almost, the sample comes in, you sequence it, you analyze it, and it goes up there. And that's just been an absolute transformation of how you do microbial genomics in a public health setting. So one is the speed that it's done. Two is that I think the way they've done it absolutely nationally is amazing. So in Australia, where I am based at the moment, it's still done by kind of state-based surveillance groups, okay? UK, they've built an infrastructure where the whole country uses the same platform, the same pipeline, and it all goes through that same kind of computer interface, and it all goes through that to one thing, which is just amazing. And that's really, again, set the standard for how nations should do genomics. And this will be the thing that will be the kind of industry standard now. How you going forward, you do pathogen genomics. And I think, finally, I think what that tells us is in most of my year, last 18 months rather, what I've been thinking about is how do we stop the next one coming? How do we prevent the next pandemic? How do we respond to it? And I think that the genomics thing, we can now tick that box because COG-UK have put down the framework of how that should be done. And what we now need to do is kind of use that model that COG-UK have done and build that kind of globally. Okay, so I think it's been a transformational project, and it sets the agenda for what we do in the future.
I think that the whole existence of COG-UK has really changed how sequencing has happened in this pandemic. I really think COG-UK has been one of the moonshot programs of this pandemic, and it has challenged other countries to not skimp on sequencing efforts. The idea that this many sequences, generating them and having them in a database and getting them out there quickly would just be impossible. Countries can't say that anymore. The UK really put a deadline, a challenge out there, and it has inspired other countries to feel like they need to step up as well.
The enormous impact. So from a Danish point of view, we adopted the protocols for sequencing from the COG-UK. We used the bioinformatics from the COG-UK. We relied on the reports from the COG-UK to guide the policies here in Denmark. So it has had a tremendous impact. The open source protocols that was implemented by the COG-UK enabled us in Denmark to get off the ground running. I think it took us 5 days from when we decided to start to having sequenced and analyzed first genomes using the open source protocols from the COG-UK research network.
I think the role that genome sequencing has played, particularly really big sequencing efforts like COG-UK, like that in Denmark and those in Switzerland, just to name some of the big ones in Europe, has really changed the game as far as what we've been able to see. You can only imagine what we would have been guessing last summer with the rise of variants like EU1 and over Christmas, and of course this year with Alpha and Delta. We wouldn't necessarily have any clue why our case numbers were changing, why we were seeing different patterns, whether travel was playing a big role in the spread of the pandemic. We would be much more in the dark and much more guessing with much less well-collected data as to what was going on, and much less able to implement things like travel restrictions or deciding that, yes, this is a genomic change, therefore we need to up our own restrictions. It's not that they're necessarily failing. It's just that they aren't as effective against some of the new variants. So I absolutely think that this has guided public health policy in a very real way in this pandemic.
The impact of the programs as COG-UK and the similar programs in Denmark and other places has been to show how we can actually bring science in to guide the policy decisions, which are difficult, but we can actually empower scientists to provide timely data that can be used to guide policy. I think that has really been a huge also motivation for scientists like me that we are able to actually contribute. In Denmark, it's been one of the first times where we, at least on a massive scale, have been able to use genomic data to guide political decisions in real time.
I mean, COG-UK has been a fantastic consortium achievement. To be able to sequence the whole genomes of so many SARS-CoV-2 genomes as the virus spread, first in the UK, and sort of keep track of the evolution is a phenomenal achievement. As a leader of a consortium of virologists who are interested in studying the downstream effects of those mutations, the information that's been provided by COG-UK has been absolutely crucial to our understanding of how the virus has evolved. COG-UK is a fantastic example of a consortium working together. There's the idea of COG-UK consortium is to look at the genotype of SARS-CoV-2 as it evolved, all the different genetic sequences. There's another consortium called G2P, which stands for genotype to phenotype. And the aim of that consortium is to interpret all that massive amount of information that COG-UK brought and understand the biological consequences of all those genetic changes. So a group of virologists working together has been absolutely dependent on the information that has come to us from COG-UK to help us understand the virology.
Getting genomes that quickly and in that number gives you, I mean, we use this phrase, this glib phrase again, precision public health, but now we can do that with genomics. So for example, one of the great things that COG-UK was the amazing rapidity at which the alpha variant, one of these variants that we now know really kicked up the infectivity of the virus, that was spotted so quickly. Because if it was a country, a resource poor country without the genomics, it could have spread far further. We wouldn't have seen it. The fact that it was detected first in the UK is really testament to the amazing computational power put in by COG-UK. So I think tracking the spread of these new variants in real time and then informing public health, hey, look, this is spreading in southeast of England, it's going up really quickly, the R0 value, the RE value of this is much higher, therefore we need to act quicker on this, clamp down faster, make local restrictions, those local interventions. That it gives you that ability to respond in real time. And I think what's going to happen now with COVID particularly is that in the next few years we'll start to see more of these variants coming across, particularly variants that might evade vaccine coverage or immunity, and we'll need to respond quickly. We'll need to be able to say, okay, look, this virus is coming here, it's spreading like this. We need to redesign our vaccines in the face of this, or we need some local intervention. And genomics can do that like a flash now. So I think that power, it does give you precision public health, okay? Because genomics is as precise as you can get, quite frankly. And again, I think COG-UK has been the absolute flagship of how you do this work.
The inspiring things about COG-UK was how they embraced the community in England and the rest of UK to make sure that everyone got on board. I think we also got inspired in Denmark to make sure that all the hospitals and all the other parties in Denmark got involved in the effort, because that's really needed if you want to bring this forward, that this becomes not a top-down steered process, but you actually have to put this bottom-up approach. Was really inspiring that the COG-UK pioneered. Denmark, we had a more or less similar approach. So it was my group that does nothing like virus sequencing normally, that reached out to the State Serum Institute and the hospitals and offered our help. And then we made a big collaboration across hospitals and government agencies and research groups like mine to get the sequencing done. The really big things is to consider how big a process it actually is and how many stakeholders you need to be aware of. And I think that's what the COG-UK has been really good about. Making sure that you actually get everyone involved that has an impact on the decisions. And that's something we also had to do in Denmark. It really is a big process to get people to listen, and you need to be very inclusive and to reach out to a lot of agencies and involve them in the process. Really getting everyone involved, I think, was key, at least in Denmark, to get the data used.
I think that the fact that COG-UK has really been in the hands of experts and scientists is something that has changed the game as far as how scientific monitoring of things like the pandemic works. This has been something that's been led by people who really know the potential of what this kind of sequencing and processing can do. And they've been able, through the British government, to enact that, to put that into action and to be trusted with making a system where that can work. And that, of course, doesn't just mean doing the sequencing, but setting up pipelines and databases so that that can be processed, it can be linked with the relevant data, it can be made available to people in the UK, and of course, to those of us outside of the UK as well. And that has all shown that these types of projects are possible and hopefully will inspire further investment in genome sequencing for many other pathogens at a large scale, now that we can see what it can offer us.
The number of lessons that we can learn from COG-UK about how you do genomic surveillance, I think one is you obviously need to invest in it, okay? And so the governments should not be shy in immediately loosening the purse strings of funding to do this. And in fact, it's not a lot of money. If you actually look at public health interventions and the cost of treatment, even, it's really, it's small beer, frankly. So one, they need to invest in it big time. You obviously need the infrastructure, you need, sequencing, computing, you need to train staff. More than anything else, you need training of people on site in local communities who can do this work. And I think one of the great things about why it's worked so well in the UK is the UK has always had a fantastically good strength in genomics and bioinformatics and evolution biology, all those sorts of things that you need for COG-UK to work. And so that's there. So, but that needs to be built now. So training in those areas needs to be done, in those countries. And then building, like I said, a national infrastructure of genomics and the computational power to do this, to work together. I think that's a critical thing. I think most of all, I think one of the great things about COG-UK is there's been so many young early career scientists, PhD students, young postdocs who've worked hard on this, right? And I think they often don't get the credit. And again, that's that training those young scientists needs to kind of start now, okay, in these technologies, and hopefully COG-UK will kind of inspire them.
COG-UK is going to leave a legacy. Not only has it illustrated how we respond to this particular outbreak and interpret that information as it comes through in real time, but of course for all the outbreaks and even monitoring just the regular epidemiology, if you like, of viruses as they circulate amongst humans, COG-UK has, if you like, pioneered the approach of using genomics and sequencing at scale.
I think it has kicked in the door to say that now the genomic era has really begun, that it's almost too expensive not to utilize the power we have in genomics to answer questions. And of course, they cannot stand on their own, but it's so cheap today to use these genomic information as a part of the puzzle when we are solving public health crises. And we do have a lot of ongoing public health crises that we just don't talk too much about, where genomics can be utilized much more than it currently is.
I think COG-UK absolutely leaves a legacy for other countries to follow, and hopefully for the UK to follow as well. I've been in the field of molecular epidemiology and phylogenetics for many years now, and I feel like we've spent a long time talking about its potential. And one of the silver linings of this terrible pandemic is that things like COG-UK and other sequencing programs in other countries have allowed us to really show that this can be realized. Yes, it takes investment, but I truly believe it is the future of public health, using this data to better inform ourselves. And COG-UK has taken a giant leap forward in showing us how this can be actualized, in showing us that that investment is worth it. And that means a lot for us, those of us in other countries, that we can show this to our own governments, our own public health agencies, and let them see that this is an investment that will pay off in the future, and it's something that is possible.
Bloody well done. No, it's really been, no, seriously, it's been a tremendous thing. And there's been so many people involved in it and so many hours are put into it. And I do think it's what COG-UK has done. It's not just the UK. I think that's a critical thing. I think it's globally, it's been a lesson in how you do collaborative science across disciplines between centres, different universities, hospitals. It's a kind of model for how you do it, and it was done so quickly as well. So I think it's an absolute model, and I hope that other countries, and I'd love us Australia to have something as nationally good as that in place. I hope other countries learn from that, and governments invest, because quite frankly, the budget is, it's small fry compared to what these many other things. So and hopefully its success will be a great advertisement.
A big shout out to all the method development groups, so the Nick Lowen groups, the Just Quicks, and all the team behind that, providing open source tools and protocols that we could utilize that really had a huge impact on the way we could start up in Denmark.
I definitely would like to offer my congratulations and my thanks to everyone at COG-UK. I've been incredibly lucky and grateful to work with many people, particularly in Edinburgh, in Glasgow, in Birmingham, in Manchester, with the data helping to interpret it and figure out what it means and learning from their insights of what you've seen in the UK. It has absolutely inspired us here in Switzerland to set up similar programs and to hopefully be able to also contribute to the global network of people doing intense sequencing and interpreting what this means for the pandemic. Thank you all so much for your hard work, and I hope you can continue to inspire us and the whole world in the future of genetic sequencing.
They're not in the room, so I don't know whether we clap. I'll send them an email afterwards to let them know that they got a round of applause. So yeah, that brings us to the end. Apologies for anyone online that had trouble seeing or hearing that video. We will post it next week so that you can share it, so that you can all see it uninterrupted. But hopefully as the comments died down, it got better as streaming. So yeah, we've reached the end of the day. I realised that for many of you, Katerina and I are now all standing between you and a cold beer, so I'll keep this brief. Something that I really hope to get out of today, and something that we tried to design the structure of the day to realise, was that there are lots of people, so many people have been thanked and have worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic to date for COG, but a lot of people don't necessarily always see all of the other bits, all of the other cogs in the machine that make the consortium work, and maybe don't realise, you know, how much work is going on kind of destroying samples. Is that bad? And how, you know, how important that is to make space for new samples to come in, how creating the tools, creating the pipelines, making the management team run. So it's been really nice to get a glimpse into all of the different parts of the consortium today, and to hopefully we can all kind of recognize that work, and just, you know, I'm really pleased that with the video that you know, it really is recognized outside, not just outside COG-UK, within the UK, but globally as well. The incredible work that's gone in over the last 18 months is you know, lauded. So people will be raising a glass to you for years to come, I'm sure. So thank you all for coming, and leave you with Katerina.
The only thing left to say is just thank you to everyone who made this event possible, who made it possible to happen, our distributed in-person model. Thank you for all of the speakers. Thank you to our amazing, committed planning committee and all of their supporters and associates, because I know that all of you have had a lot of help as well. Thank you for everybody who came and attended, but either in person or virtually. And I think that's it. And I think now we celebrate. So that's a wrap.
I'm not going to keep you much longer, but just to say thanks for coming. I hope you've had a really enjoyable day today. I certainly have. But I've stood up now to say a very special thank you to Andy and to Katerina for putting on such an amazing day. You've worked really hard at it, and it's just been fabulous. So thank you very much. We're done.
See you next year for COG again.